Hey, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. Scott Linden here, your host on our journey into the uplands. Behind a great dog or 10 and a good friend or two at our sides. Yeah, it should be a great show today. Wild pheasant guide Al Gadoury of Montana will take us to school on this, the most popular of game birds. Yeah, you remember Al from previous broadcasts. This guy knows his stuff. I've hunted with him over the years and enjoyed every minute of it. You'll learn something about pheasants, dogs, and, I bet a few other things as well, so stick around for that. We'll also talk to you on the social media platforms. I asked a question about kids and what age they were introduced to firearms and hunting. You will give us some great answers that are inspiring and motivating as well. And then in our Handle It segment this week, I asked the question, what is your biggest training challenge? And one of the answers is well worth developing further. We'll be learning how to slow down a big running dog. It's all made possible by Sage and Breaker, Pointer Shotguns, Mid-Valley Clays, TrulockChokes Tubes, MidwayUSA.com, Purina Pro Plan Sport, LandTrust.com, ESPAmerica.com, and HiViz Shooting Systems. Well, this week on Wing Shooting USA TV, watch for prairie chickens and sharptails. A horseback. No, that will be on the horses. The birds will be down there, and I actually shoot my first prairie chicken. This is an episode we did a while back. And boy, is it fun for a whole bunch of reasons. So check it out. If you want more information on the TV show, go to findbirdhuntingspots.com/wingshootingusa. So, just curious. Been talking with a lot of people about first guns, youth shotguns, all that sort of thing. So I thought I'd get your impressions on all of that and, how you handled it or are handling it and that sort of thing. So on social media, I asked... if you have a kid, at what age did you introduce firearms? And the picture I used is a good friend of mine, Al, introducing his grandson on a hunt we did a long time ago. That grandson is now a college grad. Oh, don't even do the math on that one, Scott. We'll be in big trouble. Anyway, I was there for that. He was about 12 at the time, but a lot of you maybe started earlier. Hunter Zaremba started his youngest daughter at 7. She wasn't interested in hunting, he says. Finally got into it this year when she took her first bird. That I think is a real key right there. I have, over the years, introduced a lot of kids on the TV show as well as other places. And I think the total experience in the field, watching the dogs, the noise and the smoke, being in a new, cool place, all of those things are the things that really get a kid excited. Shooting at a clay target, yeah, it's better than nothing. And there is the noise and the smoke. But a dog really adds to the attraction. Brian Hall introduced his son at age 9 with a Remington 1100 that his dad had bought for him, new in '64. And now his grandson shoots the same gun. Now that is, as you say, Brian, a real nice feeling. Andy Upwards started their daughter at 12, very happy about it, but still wants her own gun. Yeah, I don't blame her. I think there's something to that. I mean, maybe you remember sharing a room. It's the same thing, isn't it? Jeff Patrizzi was 14 when his dad took him hunting, and one of my brothers went along with it, he says. Didn't start hunting, and they were pigeon hunting then. Real hunting started at 17. Well, that's still half the age I started at, so be grateful, Jeff, and be grateful you had a dad to take you. Let's see. Cork, interesting story. Day Cork was born. Father walked into the hospital with a .22 long rifle, showed it to my mother in the hospital room, announcing, "Look what I got the baby." Ba-dum-bum. I love it. All right, you all are. What is this? A one-upmanship day? Bruce Wisniewski. Someday, Bruce, I'll get it right. He says, I have a picture of my daughter in her bassinet with a scoped Thompson Center Contender. laying right next to her at 3 days old. Be careful any more these days. That might be, let's not even go there. Age 10, age 12, there's a 5-year-old there. Every child, good advice, Irving Kreiderman. Every child will be different depending on maturity. Yeah, that's probably the right way to look at it. And you all know when that is. The other way to look at it is when they start asking about that stuff. And, of course, the safety aspect, they've got to be mature enough to understand all of that. But, sooner than later is always a good idea. Lance Larson says pretty much what I just said. When my godson showed interest in firearms and hunting, he was about 7, and that's when they got started, blah, blah, So there's all of that interest and maturity, and then there's the practical aspects of things as well. You got to work on that. Well, of course, that's why they make youth shotguns these days, and loving what I'm seeing in some of those as well. So good job, everybody. Thanks for the information and motivation. And that part of the show brought to you by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. Make a note of this, midvalleyclays.com. That's where you get the phone number for Dave Fiedler. Dave runs Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. He's a hunter. He's an incredible clay target shooter. If you're looking for a new shotgun, start your search there, not just because he has a great lineup of hard-to-get shotguns, but also because he knows what you probably need to know and is glad to share it with you. So start your discussion about a new shotgun at midvalleyclays.com. Remember, he can ship anywhere, anytime, but talk to him before you pull the trigger on your new shotgun. And once you do, outfit it with TrulockChokes. Yeah, precision-made, tight tolerances, state-of-the-art CNC equipment. I've seen it. A little noisy sometimes, even with all those shields, but that's what you need to make a great choke tube. Trulock's quality control program is second to none, all produced in factories in Wiggum, Georgia, from U.S.-produced steel. Learn more at TrulockChokes.com. And get everything you need for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors at MidwayUSA.com. Sign up for their emails or texts. You'll get 10% off your next order. Yeah, that can add up to a lot of savings, believe me. There's always a special, a contest, and of course my exclusive videos on dog training there at MidwayUSA.com. Customer satisfaction is their number one goal. Well, he is out there in the country that I cannot wait to get back to. He's in Montana. Al Gadoury is the pro guide. You can learn more about him at 6xoutfitters.com. Al, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast again.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's always fun to talk with you and talking off mic about stuff that is of great interest to me, but maybe not to everybody else. So I'll try and be careful about that. But why don't you fill us in on your guiding operation these days? I don't know if we've ever really talked about that. People have seen you on my TV show a few times, but describe what you're doing in the way of bird hunting in Montana.
Well, I start in Lewistown, Montana, and for the first month and a half, season opens September 1st. I'm hunting sharptails and huns, and it's primarily sharptails. It's a lot of walking, fairly flat ground, all wild birds, and do that until the pheasant season opens in mid-October, and then I concentrate on pheasants till about the 1st of November. We get some sharptail hunting and hunts that time of year. It just depends on the weather.
Yeah.
If it's bad weather, we're going to be hunting pheasants.
Really? So tell me about that. I'm just curious because sharptails are my target when I come next time. What does the weather do to the sharptail hunting?
It makes a nervous bird more nervous.
Uh-huh.
And during pheasant season, they're in the big flocks. And you only need one nervous sharptail to take every other bird with him when he goes.
Yeah.
So they're very hard to to hunt in open country when they get in those big flocks. If they're in the pheasant cover, you can find a few, but still, it's hard to get close enough to them.
Yeah.
So that's why we're concentrating on pheasants later in the season.
Yeah, it's a perfect confluence of that bigger group of birds plus the weather that makes them a little more hinky to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah, it always leads to bad behavior, no matter what the bird is.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, and what's the season looking like out there? I know it's a little early to make any guesses, but you mentioned that the habitat's looking pretty good these days.
Yeah. When the cover's good, we usually have a good bird year. And when you're seeing a lot of prey animals, like rabbits and gophers and songbirds, that usually means you're going to have a pretty good upland season too. So I'm not worried about anything except fire if things dry out. But right now, the cover's green. They're making their first cuttings of hay, and things look good at this time.
I never thought about that, but all of these animals kind of go parallel to each other in terms of their population dynamic. And we're seeing the same thing. We see a lot of valley quail coveys, young broods right now. We can see them only because we have water and we have bird feeders. But we also have a lot of chipmunks and a lot of rabbits. And so it's been a good year for everybody.
It's the same here. I'm seeing a lot of those little red squirrels and more rabbits than I've seen in many years.
Well, good luck on that, and save a few for me. I'll be out there mid-September, so look out, everybody, in Lewistown, Montana. I promised everybody we would talk primarily pheasants this time around because it's such a popular bird by a long shot compared to everything else. So let's go from the very beginning. If we're looking at developing a pheasant dog, I got some thoughts on that. You probably have a lot more thoughts. You're out there every day. What are the things that you try to instill in a young dog, and you have some relatively recent experience doing that? What are the things that matter to you regarding your dog?
Number one, being able to stop that dog. With a flushing dog, it's a toot on the whistle. With a pointing dog, it's a whoa, and it's got to be a fairly close working pointing dog. You really don't want that dog out more than 100 yards because the pheasants just won't sit still for you to get over to the dog most of the time. So I don't run big running dogs on pheasants, but every dog I've had, if we did a lot of pheasant hunting, they learned how to handle those birds. They learned how to circle around and cut them off. Flushing dogs is a lot easier to train on pheasants than a pointing dog, I think.
Yeah, as long as they stay close enough.
Yes, and they have to. And what I see a lot of people doing is their dog will be getting, on the edge of their range, and they'll want to call them all the way back. Well, I wouldn't do that. They're getting out there because they probably smell a bird. They don't want to come running all the way back to you and then hunt the cover they've already hunted. It's best just to stop them and walk up to them and then release them.
Oh, I like that. Is there a particular reason you don't want them to come all the way back? Is it practical, or is there something in the psychology there?
Well, what'll happen is you can get them to come all the way back, and as soon as you release them, they're going to go straight back to where they left off. You'll be right back to where you started, yelling at the dog or whistling. So it's better just give them a toot on the whistle and then walk up to them. Now, you're not going to get every pheasant. Some are going to get away. That's just part of the game.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
You mentioned for some it's a parlor trick, and some I don't believe it even when they boast about it. But teaching your dog or letting your dog learn more likely how to come around on a bird how do you do that, or do you just cross your fingers and hope they figure it out themselves? And what's the end result? What do you want to occur when your dog swings wide and comes in from the other direction?
Well, this is for pointing dogs.
Yeah.
And, if you hunt them on pheasants enough, a smart dog will figure it out. He may be 3 years old. He may be 5 years old before he figures it out. Some never will.
Yeah.
But if you hunt them on pheasants a lot, they know what a running bird is, and they'll circle around and block him. I don't know how to train for that.
Yeah. So cross your fingers, hope you got a smart dog, or at least smarter than you, and you might get lucky, huh?
Or at least one that'll whoa when you tell him.
Absolutely. Well,
It'll keep you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking for pheasant ground, whether it's right outside Lewistown or somewhere else in pheasant country. Are there particular things that we should be watching for as we're driving along or e-scouting with our online or our mapping app? What would you suggest is the best starting point in terms of evaluating cover and terrain?
Well, the best pheasant hunting areas I've found have grain crops and thick cover nearby, and that's what I look for. If you just have one, you're not going to find many pheasants. You need both of those things. Water is helpful.
Good. We're going to talk more about water in a minute, but thick is a relative term, and I've been there. I've done that. I think I know what you mean. But what are some of the primary? How would you describe thick cover? I mean, is it stuff we can't walk through? Is it that bad?
Cattails.
Yeah.
Anything you have a lot of trouble walking through or can't walk through. That's where you need a flushing dog. You don't need a pointer in there, because they'll be hard to find. It'll be hard for you to get in and flush the bird and see it.
Well, out your way, there are probably some other, shrubs, if for lack of a better word, that might be out there in a thick enough country, snowberries or buffalo berries or something like that. Now you and I have found sharptails in some of that as well. They're looking for shade at some point and also cover and protection from avian predators. But are there any other, real strong indications that we're possibly in a good starting place?
Well, they do key in on berry bushes.
Yeah.
Later in the season, especially if there's snow on the ground that covers the grain crops, being those buffalo berry areas or any other berry bush, choke cherries, things like that.
Nice. And have you ever seen them? I've never seen a pheasant scratching through snow. They must do it, but I've just never seen it. They can't possibly not want to get down to some of those grains, right?
Yeah, they can't handle deep snow.
Yeah.
An inch or so, a lot of areas in Montana is windy, so, there's parts of the field that'll get blown bare. They'll look for those areas.
What about weather? Early in, even if it's sharptail season, but early in pheasant season, it still can be pretty warm out there. What are you doing besides getting up early to take care of your dog, for example, in weather like the early season, for no matter what the species is?
I carry a lot of water with me. I carry a spray bottle that helps the dog more than anything. You can spray the inside of their ears, lay them down, spray their belly with water. That seems to help them as much as giving them a drink. But you really can't carry too much water. If it turns out you don't need it, you can always dump it out. But I'd rather have it than need it, not have it.
Yeah, and when we hunt together, those dogs are coming in fairly frequently, if for no other reason than just to give them a little bit of water. I've never mastered the right way to carry as much water as I think I need, but you've got a big vest that you basically fill up with water. You don't even put the birds in your vest in the early season, do you?
No, I generally don't put them in there at all. I'd rather hang them outside the vest.
Mm-hmm.
And I look for a vest with a big game pocket where I can put a big bottle of water in with one hand and take it out quickly and give the dog a drink. I've hunted with people. It takes them 10 minutes to give their dog a drink. They got to find the bottle, get it out of the vest, get their little dog bowl out. And dog tips the dog bowl over or doesn't want to drink because he's excited and he wants to go hunting. Yeah.
Yeah. There are times, and I've advocated for this. I have a good hunting friend, chucker hunting friend, who does exactly what you just described. But I get it. In his case, it works perfectly because it gives everybody a 5-minute break, including the dogs. If you can keep the dogs settled for 5 minutes, it's probably worth a half hour more of energy by the end of the day. But you're absolutely right. And, the right dog at the right time, yes. The wrong dog, he's dehydrated by the end of the day.
Well, you don't want to stop to give your dog a drink when you're 75 yards from the end of the cover. Those birds don't need a break. Get up there to the end of the cover, then give your dog a drink.
Yeah, I get it. And absolutely true. We're going to talk strategy, of course, and a whole bunch of other things in that regard. Now I want to get to the first question from one of our listeners for you, Al. By the way, that's Al Gadoury. He's with 6xoutfitters.com in Montana. Pheasants, basically all upland birds, depending on what time of year you go with, Al. This is the Upland Nation podcast, and I'm Scott Linden, your host. Great question here. Tim Wright asks, do you have advice for locating pheasants when conditions are very dry and warm? We've addressed a little bit of that. He says, hey, Tim, I understand. Yeah. And then after November 1st. So let's talk about the second half of the season, if you want to, when the weather cools and there is snow and maybe wind and who knows what else. What would Tim or the rest of us, because we're all going to steal your ideas, Tim and Al, what should we do later in the season if we're looking for pheasants in Montana to start with?
Well, they particularly like cattails.
Yeah.
That's about the thickest cover they use. And, when it gets down near zero, that's where they go. And that's the number one thing I would look for.
What is it about cattails? They're vertical. So you think about how, what can they possibly be doing for a bird with that kind of shape?
Well, they're in the middle there. Any predator is coming anywhere near them, they're going to hear them coming.
Yeah.
It's got to be a pretty small predator to, worm his way through those cattails. A fox isn't going to get them. A dog might get him to flush. He's not going to catch him in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's primarily a defense tactic as much as it is same thing. It's all part and parcel. You're protected from predators and from the more serious wind and snow too, I bet.
Yeah, and I've hunted cattails when they've been almost covered with snow, and the pheasants have tunnels in there under the snow.
I'll never forget. You and I talked off mic about North Dakota. We made a show in North Dakota many years ago, and it was wicked cold, and there was at least a couple feet of snow on the ground. We found exactly that. The first thing that came out of those cattails, the biggest whitetail buck I've ever seen. He was down there in it too.
Well, I tried hunting them once when there was 4 feet of snow on the level. With snowshoes. That worked great for getting around. You couldn't shoot.
Oh, possibly, yeah. And you're a great shooter. So what did you find the problem to be?
You can't swing.
Yeah.
You can't move your feet at all.
Yeah.
Unless that pheasant gets up and takes off straight away from you, you just can't get on him. I mean, I was having roosters pop up 20 yards away, sucker shots, if I could turn. But it just didn't work.
Yeah, but it might work for me. I could use another excuse. Did you take a dog with you when you're in that deep snow? I can't imagine what they have to work for.
Oh, the Labradors had a wonderful time. They just get right in there and bust through them. But I gave up after half a day.
Well, I don't blame you one bit. You mentioned your dogs, and you've got a relatively new dog that I have yet to meet, and love working with the combination you use, setters and Labradors. Tell me where you are in your young dog's career.
Well, my youngest dog, Pollywog's a young Labrador, and she's just about finished now. She's very small, only about 35 pounds, and the fastest Labrador I've ever had. So she'll put a bird up pretty quick. And I have a 1.5-year-old setter, really long-legged gal that's about 55 pounds, the biggest setter I've ever had.
Yeah.
And she's been doing everything right since she was 4 months old. I got her force-fetched, and she enjoys that, and she just keeps getting better and better. She rarely bumps a bird. She's got a great nose.
You think it's all nose? She's just getting a whiff sooner than most dogs, so they're laid back a little bit farther. What do you think makes her so steady?
She's got a better nose than most dogs.
Yeah.
And same with my young lab. That one's got a better nose than my other dogs.
Yeah, that's got to pay off in the long run. And I would imagine early in the season it's even more important.
Yes, yeah, because the sending is tougher when it's hot and dry.
Yeah, and do you see them standing off further, or I mean, with a good nose, would they stay at those distances you're accustomed to in the middle of the season, or are they still getting a little too close?
They'll stay as far away as they can.
Yeah.
It just depends on the day. You know, they're not supposed to stop until they know where the bird is, and if sending's poor, they tend to get closer to them. They might bump some. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've had people say, "Well, it wasn't the dog's fault. The birds flush wild." But I always wonder would the birds flush if the dog wasn't there at all?
That's a good question. I'm going to address that in the second half of the show after you and I are done, because that's been a big question on the social media.
Well, I can right now. The answer is no.
I agree.
The dog, he got too close. Even if they flushed it 100 yards, that dog wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always intrigued with people who are patient enough and skilled enough as trainers to run a flushing dog with a pointing dog. If somebody else is so inclined to try that, and kids, don't you try this at home. It says, seek advice from a well-qualified adult. What are some of the things that you would suggest people do if they want to try that combination?
Well, the flushing dog has to walk at heel. He's not hunting. He's there to retrieve.
Yeah.
I don't have the flushing dog out there running around while the setter's out at 200 yards. That's not going to work very well.
So basically, we got a dog that will stay with us. The pointer goes on point, and we get up close enough. And then what do you ask your Labrador to do at that point?
I usually have the lab sit as soon as the setter goes on point, and he might be 100 yards back or more.
Yeah.
But they pay attention. They mark pretty well. And then we walk in and flush the birds, and I release the dog. They just mark better if they're not moving.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want it to be where they can see the dog on point. So I might have them walk at heel up as close as 50 yards, just to make sure they can see what's going on.
I will never forget one scene that Tad got. He was laid back with you, at least at the beginning, with you and one of your labs. And that lab sat, and we moved in, and And the cover was just high enough to where the lab wasn't happy with being able to see you well enough. So she would pop up and then sit down again and pop up and sit down again just to get an idea of what direction we were walking in. It just made me smile every time I watched that clip. It was so fun. And of course, I probably missed after that, so it didn't really matter.
Well, that was Bigfoot. And
yeah.
She's 9 years old now, and she still does that. She can stand up on her hind legs and walk around. And it's easier for her to mark.
I love it. All right. Well, we're just about to the end of the first segment of the show here at the Upland Nation podcast. Al Gadoury is my guest from 6X Outfitters in Montana. Al, you're fishing a lot these days. Before we take a quick break, tell me how the fishing is going these days.
Well, the fishing on the spring creeks was, very good from about June 20th. And, about the 15th of June, or July, it starts winding down. It gets a lot tougher. Those creeks I fish get a lot of fishing pressure, and the hatches start tapering off. In the past few days, we've had temperatures in the high 90s, no wind, not a cloud in the sky, and that's going to continue, for the next week, and that's going to make it pretty difficult. I have been fishing Spring Creek in Lewistown, and that's been very good at midday. They're getting some pretty light hatches now, and that will keep getting better.
Yeah, someday I will actually bring a rod out there, a certain time of, sharptail season, when that might make a great afternoon after a morning somewhere in a field. Well, good. I'm glad you're getting out. I'm a little jealous. I haven't seen anything in the way of a trout in the last week and a half, but I'm working on that for tomorrow. So there. Everybody hang loose. Al, you can relax for a half a second. I'm going to make a couple announcements, and then when we get back, we'll cover more with Al Gadoury of 6X Outfitters, wild pheasant hunting persona #1, and then we'll take a look at that training challenge that I've alluded to regarding a big running dog. It's all brought to you by HiVizSites.com. See what you've been missing. Go see the video on their website of the rationale that I use when I'm using a sight on a shotgun. Yeah, I'm not aiming, I'm pointing. And the reason I can do that is because my subconscious, my inner self, it's a Zen thing, I know. I can see the muzzle, but I don't have to see the muzzle while I'm focusing on the target. It seems to work for me, and it's really easy to install. So if you want to try it, you can experiment like I am with these easily changeable light pipe colors. Learn more about how it works and why I think it works. Go watch the video, and then also check out all the choices you have at HiVizSites.com. And while I'm out there and buying a beer for Al, I'll also be hunting on some ground that we found via landtrust.com. Yeah, get outdoors without the crowds. This is your chance to basically have a place to yourself. Exclusive private land access takes all the stress out of planning. Yeah, we can make a Montana hunt on private ground from right here on my desk. Know that me and my dog, and maybe a good friend, if he is nice to me, we'll enjoy the whole place to ourselves for a day, 2 days, however long you like. Create a free account and learn more at landtrust.com. Of course, I'm fueling my dog's performance with Pro Plan Sport dog food. I like the chicken and rice version. It's designed for active, hardworking dogs like Flick. High protein formula, real meat is the first ingredient, and that's important because the amino acids in meat nourish muscles and help them recover quickly. 30% protein, 20% fat, that fuels the metabolic needs and maintains lean muscle. Learn more and pick a variety for yourself and your dog at ProPlansport.com. And welcome back, Al Gadoury, 6X Outfitters, to the Upland Nation podcast. Al, I keep hearing all these birds in the background. You must have had a good raven hatch, among other things.
Well, there's a lot of magpies hanging. They cause a lot of trouble. They're harassing the small birds.
Although it's a two-way street. I watched a red-tailed hawk get chased by a brown-headed cowbird yesterday. Sometimes those mama birds, they are big birds in small bodies, aren't they?
Yeah, well, my dogs harass the magpies, and also there's a squirrel that's going after them too. So they get chased, plus the neighborhood cats.
Yeah, it's like a Disney movie out there. Well, we were talking about wild pheasants and all the things that we can do to find more of them. So once we're on a spot that we are unloaded, we've got everybody ready to go. We've opened the dog box. The dog is ready. What's your start of a hunt ritual that we might want to employ as well?
Well, to start, you want to be very, very quiet when you get to the hunting area, because those old roosters, they're like old whitetails.
Yeah.
You make any noise at all. Once they know you're out there, they start moving. So be as quiet as you can. No door slamming, no yelling at the dogs. Air your dogs before you get to the hunting area. Might be a good thing to do if you got multiple dogs. Once you get there, you want to get organized quickly and get in the field. And
if we're looking at a field, do you have obviously we're gonna consider the wind, we're consider the cover and the terrain. Let's just imagine in our minds we're looking at a CRP field with some grass in it, and then on the right side somewhere is some cut grain of one sort, and there's a rise in the middle or something like that. How are we going to approach that? Are we just going to shoot straight away, or you got a plan for that?
Well, I always have a plan with pheasants. I try to figure out what their escape route is going to be. And, it's tough to hunt them with one person a lot of the time. But if you've got 2 or 3 people, surround them.
Yeah.
If someone's going to block, they've got to hide where the pheasants can't see them until they're close to them. If you're standing out in the open, you're not blocking. You're just keeping the pheasants from coming anywhere near you. And I see this time and again when people are trying to block, they stand out where they can get a clear shot. Well, not going to happen if they see you first.
So, that is, I've heard that before. And of course we hear the opposite of that all the time. Be visible so the birds will not run towards you, but you're saying they'll just run another direction. So what is the blocker really doing? Just lurking and waiting for a shot, rather than diverting or preventing birds from moving that way?
I don't want the pheasant to know the blocker's there before he's on top of them.
Yeah.
Then they tend to go straight up when that happens. You just don't want that bird to know you're there. We want them to know the people that are walking up to him, that are after him. Mm-hmm. But they're very good at pinpointing locations of, predators. They hear you walking. They hear everything, and they know exactly where you are, and they have a plan before they take off. They know where they're going.
Yeah, and I've talked about that before when it comes to actually trying to hit a bird that flushes in front of you, figure out where it's going to fly, and sometimes you get lucky you get lucky, I don't. But let's just delve slightly deeper into the blocking strategy then, because I'm intrigued now. Means that we want to put the scenario again of that field with grass and a grain and maybe a rise. Where would be the ideal place to put a blocker?
Well, the best place to hide will probably not be the best place to shoot from.
Yeah.
But unless you're hidden, you're probably not going to get that shot. So you just have to deal with it. Maybe the shooting will be a little tougher, but I'd rather have a tough shot than no shot.
Are we putting them, for example, you go to a lot of places and there's a road or there's a ditch or some physical attribute that the bird we would presume is running away from us, running towards that, they hit that, and then they fly because they don't want to cross whatever that is. Is that where we put our blockers, somewhere near that?
Well, generally, I'm hunting draws.
Yeah.
And the birds will stay in the lowest part of the draw as they're running up. They may run out to the edge and look, but they go back down to the bottom and they run up the lowest point. So that's where your blocker needs to be, down low. And, unless it's real windy, you can hear those birds coming.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Oh, I love that. I've never thought about them using the deepest part of a draw like that. Is it just because it's easier to hide, you think?
Yeah. Yes. They've got the most protection down there.
Yeah.
They can't be seen when they're running on some little deer trail right at the bottom of the draw.
I love it. And sometimes at the bottom of those draw, there's actually water, and you alluded to water earlier, and I wanted to get back to that and touch base. I don't know, what is the importance of water to a pheasant? Do we need it nearby because they go there and get a drink every day, or is it something else?
They seem to key on it, in the earlier season, but I had a lot of pheasants when it's very cold and their water's been frozen for weeks. They're still there. Yeah. So they seem to be able to deal with it, I guess, by eating snow or getting the moisture from the berries and the grains they eat. Yeah,
I've only hunted with one guy, and that was in South Dakota along the James River, where he actually said, yeah, the biologists will never confirm it, but I think they drink the water right out of the river sometimes. And that may be true, I don't know, but I'm like you. I think it also water creates riparian areas, which have so much of that great ideal cover that you've described already. Taller stuff, thicker stuff, and that makes for cover and for better feed. So
yeah, well, they definitely use water. Look at any place that raises pheasants. They always have clean water for their birds, and then the birds use it.
I never thought about, I'd slap my forehead, but I'd knock my microphone down. Of course. So they must need water. I mean, what they call free water, I guess.
They prefer it, but they can live without it too during the very cold periods.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So we got a dog on point, and there's three of us. There's you in the middle, and me on one side, and my buddy Tom on the other side. You remember Tom? Yeah.
Yes.
He says hello, by the way. So we got a dog on point. You've put Pollywog on a sit. We're going to move up on that bird. How far apart should we be?
Well, you have to consider the escape routes. You want to cover escape routes. And the one thing you don't do is yell, whoa. The dog's on point. He's doing everything right. You don't have to tell Mr. Pheasant you're coming to kill him. and I might just give my a hand signal to sit, or very quietly say sit. They'll sit when they see the dog on point. They know what's coming. Sure. But you want to go quickly and quietly. You don't want to creep. I see a lot of people when a dog goes on point, they start going real slow. Well, you got to look where you're going so you don't fall, but you want to go as quickly as you can. I don't think running will help you because that bird's sitting there and he can hear you running towards him. I think that affects him more than if you're just walking quickly.
Yeah, I call that the cow strategy. They're probably a little bit more used to hearing a cow-like pace than a bobcat pace, for example.
Yeah, if something's running, they know it's coming to get them.
Yeah. My back before I learned to shut up in the field from you, my throat is still sore from yelling. We were in South Dakota and we had that happen. We had one of my dogs, so they aren't reliable. He hits a point and we're 100 yards away, and we've decided that the nephew of the landowner is going to shoot this bird. And he was creeping as if, well, I guess I don't know what he thought he was doing, but he was moving at a snail's pace, and I would yell from across the field, go faster, go faster, go faster, and he would not do it. And sure enough, by the time he gets 20, 25 yards from the dog says, to heck with this, flies the bird himself.
Yeah. When that dog turns his head and looks at you, sending you a message that, how much longer is this going to take?
Yeah. And then you shoot and he rolls his eyes and he's off on the next one.
Yeah.
That was a fun hunt for a lot of reasons. It was it was a really wet year. So we were walking through one shelter belt that had 6 or 8 inches of water. It was like being in the bayou in Louisiana or something. Yeah. And we actually watched pheasants perching in trees to get out of the water.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Lots of fun there. But speaking of fun, let's get back to Al Gadoury of 6X Outfitters. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation podcast. If you wanted to, just if I said, all right, Al, and I'm saying it, tell us all the dumb things we do when we're pheasant hunting so that we can write them down, burn them in the fireplace, and never do them again. What would your list look like?
Well, most important thing, you got to have boots you can walk in. As far as mistakes I see people make, I get hunters every year. I ask them what choke they have in their gun. They don't know.
Yeah.
And, you want to have the right chokes, and generally it's improved cylinder for most of the hunting I do, at least for the first shot. Let your dog hunt. He shouldn't need a lot of direction from you. If it's a pointing dog, they're bred to go out and find birds. If he's over in a corner you don't think is the best way, trust your dog.
Yeah, that ought to be a bumper sticker, or maybe better, tattooed on our left forearm.
Yeah, and one thing I learned last year, have you ever shot a bird and seen him bounce?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I always assumed when they bounced, I really got him.
Yeah.
But I seldom got him. What happened was, the bird had a broken wing, and he was coming down feet first, and he was trying to fly. So you just see him bounce up. Well, when that didn't work, those birds generally run.
Yeah.
I've never, I've started watching for it, and whenever I've seen a bird bounce, that bird was always a cripple. Every single.
So that's good to know, because, you only see them when they bounce. They're on the ground the rest of the time and maybe not visible. So
yeah, dead birds don't bounce.
Yeah, in between bounces, they're running.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of us do a lot of dumb things out there, and we appreciate your diplomacy in that regard. But what are some of the things that we could do more of? Think about your own hunting and what you do, besides now sending a dog really fast for a bouncing pheasant. What do you do that is a habit for you that we might want to adopt? We want to be more Al-like.
I try to be as quiet as I can.
Yeah.
You don't need to talk to anybody. You don't need to say anything. Just be as quiet as you can, because those birds will pinpoint your location and try to stay as far away from you as they can.
Yeah. The more I hunt, the more I realize that's true for just about every bird. There's no bird out there that wants to get close within earshot of a predator, and that's how we're treated most of the time, I guess.
Yeah, and nothing frightens them more than the sound of your voice. I think I don't think a whistle bothers them as much, but the sound of your voice really bugs them.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll do that for that reason alone. But I'll also even go away from the whistle sometimes. My collar has a tone, not the beeper, but it has a tone on it. I'll use that instead of the whistle sometimes.
I do that a lot too.
Yeah,
just to change direction.
Yeah,
if they're on a bird, they're not going to change direction. But if I'm going to change direction, I just want the dog to know which way I'm going.
I've finally rationalized it to the same point. That little tone is not going to move your dog off a bird.
No.
So if you try it and he doesn't change direction, then maybe you should change direction.
Yeah, it goes back to trust your dog.
Yeah, exactly. A final question for you, Al. Then I'll cut you loose to, I hope, go fishing. If you can think of one more critical piece of equipment to put in your vest or in your truck, whether it's during the hunt or after the hunt, we've talked water, but what else might we carry that would be of use to us?
For pheasant hunting in particular, a protective vest for your dog.
Yeah.
Because some areas are going to have a lot of barbed wire, and just all my vet bills during pheasant season are related to barbed wire cuts. And also a pair of heavy duty wire cutters. So if your dog gets in a snare, you can get them out. I've hunted several places where there was not supposed to be any traps, private landowner had no trapping on the property and ran into a snare. That's happened a couple. So you never know. But those two things you need. I also have neoprene vests for my dogs. I use them for the setters if it's very wet, raining, because they get cold easy.
Sure. And
also, a lot of times at the end of a run, I'll put the neoprene vest on the dog for about 5 minutes, and that's all it takes. It warms them up. When you take the vest off, the vest will be soaked and the dog will be dry. It's very handy if you have a dog that's not feeling well. It'll warm them up quick and keep. But those are just absolutely essential. I wouldn't want to go out without those wire cutters and having some vests in my truck in case I need them. Spare whistle, because you will lose your whistle at some point.
I love it. I've never thought about using a neoprene vest after a hunt to warm up a dog. It's a great idea. I have learned, and I'm going to start doing more of it. Curtis Fry, another great NAVDA trainer who we've had on the podcast a couple times, he puts a towel in the bottom of his ice chest. And at the end of a hot run, he'll wrap that towel around the dog for a couple minutes.
That would work very well, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that if my wife will let me take any of the towels from the house. Oh my! Well, we could go on and on. Next time we meet, it will be over there somewhere. I'm looking forward to it already. In the meanwhile, catch a lot of fish and get your dogs in shape. Looking forward to meeting them. I'll see you in Montana this year. That's Al Gadoury. 6xoutfitters.com is where you learn more about them. That's number 6, letter X, outfitters, just like it sounds, .com. Al, always fun to talk with you. The first beer is on me. I'll see you at the Craft Brewer downtown.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the rest of you, of course, we've still got to answer that question about kind of reining in a big running dog, and it should be a fun exercise. You've all got some suggestions, and we'll touch on those as well after a word from pointershotguns.com. Hey, 87 days to the Iowa pheasant opener, 59 days to the Maine ruffed grouse opener. Yeah, if you're counting down, you know it's time to get your new shotgun and dial it in. Yeah, put the right choke tubes in it and get the right color of finishes, and also learn to shoot the dang thing. Yeah, it takes a while, and this is your chance to get ahead of the curve. Go to pointershotguns.com, pick out your next new gun. Semi-auto, over and under, side-by-side, all finishes, all gauges, even youth guns. It's all right there at pointershotguns.com. And if you are not taking good care of your guns, I don't care where you get them, they're not going to serve you the way they should. So do that by going to sageandbreaker.com. Gun cleaning and care. Their gear is crafted at the highest caliber. Yeah, that's why they can offer a lifetime warranty. They make high-quality gun cleaning products and accessories, you name it, from cases and cleaning mats to all the expendables that you're going to use to spray or rub or pour onto your gun, to take good care of them so that they take good care of you. sageandbreaker.com. Well, I asked on the social media, several times, and you're all great because you're helping out so much. Everybody's got a great answer for these questions about helping our fellow hunters. Well, training, and we'll get into hunting strategy as we get closer and that sort of thing. But this is a great one from VHD Hank. Hank wants some help slowing down his 7-year-old dog. Still runs 8 miles an hour for the first 4 or 5 hours. Let's see, 8 times 4. That's a lot of miles. And that's a pretty good pace for that long a time. What can we do about that? Well, Brenda Scott Russell says we got our dog neutered. That helped a little bit. HRCH, Hunting Retrieving Champion, I think that is, Wildfire Deacon. Well, plus a UH. What would that be? Anyway, very proud of your dog, I know. If you shoot your limit in the first hour, he won't run for the next 3 or 4 hours. Yeah, those are great. I love them. I've given a lot of thought to this because I get a question like this quite often. My dog, he ranges so far. I never hear he ranges so fast. So I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, Hank, but if it's distance or even coverage, I wonder if you ought to do what all the spaniel guys do and let your dog out 5 miles from where you're going to start hunting. Let him catch up to you. By then, he's warmed up and slowed down. No, that's a joke. I'm convinced that most of the time it's not how far away your dog is and how fast he got there. It's how slow we get there afterwards. And so it means that we need to work more on steadiness. You know, I don't mind. And I've had last year, the record was 457 yards. That was the distance I was from Flick on a sharptail point. No, wait a minute. That was a chucker point because it was uphill the whole way. It took me a while to get there, but, you know, Flick and I, we work on this steadiness thing, and so as long as the birds are cooperative and I don't do anything stupid, he'll hold that point till we get there. So, of course, start working on that, Hank, if you aren't already. Some ways to maybe slow down his coverage. You don't move as fast, you know, take baby steps or meander a little bit more. You know, describe more of a windshield wiper pattern with your own walking, and your dog will go right to left, left to right a little bit more, not out as far. Worth a try at least, as long as he'll stay in front of you. Or start going to the gym more and try out for the Olympic team and move faster yourself. Hope some of those work. I know some of them were allegedly funny, but some of them were also worth taking a look at. Hope they helped you, Hank, and thank you everybody from Jason to John to Cork to Tim. All those folks pitched in and helped out VHD Hank on that one. And there's always something like that for you to do to help out at some of our social media pages. Wing Shooting USA Facebook page, Upland Nation Facebook page, ditto on Twitter and on that newfangled Instagram, which is now ancient history, I'm told. that part of the show. Handle it. Brought to you by ESPAmerica.com. A set of custom fit digital hearing protection devices will make you a better shooter. It has for me. You hear everything you need to hear, from the dog's collar tags to the birds flying away, but you also are protected from that shotgun blast. That alone will help with whatever kind of subtle flinching you have, but it will also allow you to practice more and more at the range. If those things are of interest to you, then go to ESPAmerica.com. And who doesn't need to practice more? Learn why they are my choice at ESPAmerica.com. And on that note, thank you to Al Gadoury. 6xoutfitters.com is where you learn more about Al. The guy has wisdom from many, many years of trying to find me pheasants, sharptails, and huns, and he has done the... Oh, and sage grouse. Thanks, Al. Appreciate that. You want to learn more about him, that's where you go, 6xoutfitters.com. If you contributed to the discussion in some way or another, thank you very much. We're all grateful for that. We're all big one happy family, one big happy, whatever you call it. We're all one of those. Anyway, and those who left a rating or a review of the Upland Nation, I appreciate that. We also are grateful to our sponsors who make it all possible. Sage and Breaker, Purina Pro Plan Sport, ESPAmerica, Mid-Valley Clays, TrulockChokes, MidwayUSA.com, LandTrust.com, Pointer Shotguns, and HiViz Shooting Systems. Yeah, there's always something new to watch, listen to, or read at FindBirdHuntingSpots.com, and that's where you can tune in and find out where Wing Shooting USA, the TV show, is airing right now. Hope you'll watch. Hope you'll tell your friends. Until then, I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation podcast.